Howdy Neighbors, David here. And today on Boondock Stallions, we're going to be taking a look at the entirety of the Halloween franchise and show you how it is in fact the main horror movie, or at least the best horror movie to represent a franchise in the horror genre with a multiverse. Now I know I've been spending a lot of time talking about multiverses, what with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, the Spider-Man 3 movie coming out and having its references into the Spider-Verse, and even the fact that DC is currently working on a Flashpoint movie that would delve into their multiverse. I decided, you know what, horror movies don't get enough talk and praise about their multiverses, and so that's what we're going to talk about here today. Before we get started, go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll get this bad boy started. So, Halloween. Halloween has so many timelines, it's ridiculous. There's the Prime timeline. There's the Prime timeline with the alternate ending. There's the H2O timeline. There's the Rob Zombie timeline. There's the Halloween 2018 timeline. That's the one we're currently on right now. That is 5 timelines to follow in the Michael Myers franchise. So, the Prime timeline is Halloween 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the alternate ending is the producer's cut of Halloween 6, which should have been the theatrical release for Halloween 6, but due to the death of Donald Pleasence, they decided to re-edit the entire film together to give us a more fitting end for Donald Pleasence in the Prime timeline. So for those of you that don't remember, Halloween 1 and 2 is where Michael Myers starts off by killing his sister at the beginning of the movie, spending 16 years in a psychiatric institute, breaking out, and then murdering his trying to murder his 17-year-old little sister, who is Laurie Strode. Now, in the movies, you don't find out that him and Laurie are related until the second movie, and that she was put up for adoption after Michael's family fell apart when he went into the psychiatric institution. So that movie is one big movie instead of 2 movies. And then Halloween 3 doesn't really count in the Halloween franchise because it's a story elsewhere in the world, in the same universe, just has no relevance to the main story. So pretend it didn't happen. Halloweens 4, 5, and 6 pick up after Laurie has died in a car accident with her husband and left behind their daughter Jamie, whom Michael returns to kill years later. He doesn't actually do it until Halloween 6, and at this point they had recast my darling Danielle Harris with somebody else for reasons that are probably money. And so Halloween 6 ends with Jamie died, and the baby gets taken by Paul Rudd, who is a surviving member of the original Halloween movie, playing the grown-up version of Tommy Doyle. Takes the baby, disappears, lives a happy life elsewhere, and is never bothered by Michael and them again. But it ends with Michael not being dead, sneaking up on Dr. Loomis. You hear Dr. Loomis scream in agony, and then is silenced, and the credits roll with "In Memory of Donald Pleasence," as he had just passed away. And like I said, they reworked that ending so that they wouldn't carry on with Dr. Loomis in any future installments. They would just have to reboot him, which they did, and I'll get to that later. But the original cut of the movie has Michael, a very different ending. Dr. Loomis is actually the vessel for which Michael puts in the curse of Thorn into him. Like, let's say Michael is the vessel for the curse. He needed to transfer it to a family member, i.e. his sister or his niece or his great-nephew/son, because Jamie's child was technically Michael's, and that's kind of gross, but I don't even want to talk about that right now. Anyways, so he was going to pass the curse on to the child, but as the child and Paul Rudd disappeared, never to be found again, he went to the next family member he had, which is a surrogate family member in Dr. Loomis, and he ends up passing the curse into Dr. Loomis, who screams in agony and becomes the next serial killer to take on the lead in the franchise, and that's the end of the movie. But it ends with Michael being completely cured of his curse, putting on a disguise and walking away, a free, clear man with none of the baggage and history of what he's just lived with. It was an awesome, bold ending, but due to Donald Pleasence dying, they changed it. And it's on Shudder. If you've got the time and the means, go to Shudder, check it out, watch it. It's an awesome cut. Don't discredit it just because it's got a slightly different story than what you're used to. Now, that is the Prime timeline and the alternate timeline. Let's take a look at the H2O timeline. You see, H2O is Halloween 20 years later, but they decided to pretend that Halloweens 4, 5, and 6 never happened. They acknowledged that Laurie faked her death using the car accident story from the original Prime timeline, but it was a fake. She's still alive, has a son, got married, got divorced, is dating another teacher at the school that she's the head mistress of, and is currently terrified and hiding from her brother Michael. So Halloween, the H2O timeline, is 1 and 2, H2O, and sadly, Resurrection. And I say sadly, Resurrection because that is literally the movie that killed the series for a little while. That movie was so bad, they had to remake the entire thing. Which brings us to the Rob Zombie timeline. And before we even go into the Rob Zombie timeline, Resurrection actually did do one thing, one good thing in the entire movie. And that is answered the big question that was looming from H2O. If H2O is a sequel to Halloween 2, and it's been 20 years since the original, where and what the hell has Michael been up to for 20 years? He had 2 decades. Was he living in the woods? Did he have a shed? Were him and Jason roomies out in that one shack from Friday the 13th Part 2? I don't know. So they ignored that whole problem in the movie and the whole overall narrative, and then it was just a throwaway line in Resurrection where Busta Rhymes gets to redeem that movie by saying, yeah, it looks like he's been living in the basement for 20 years. Boo, H2O writers, boo. The Resurrection had to fix that for you. So, let's talk about the masterpiece that is Rob Zombie's Halloween. Oh my god, and now my dog... Excuse me. Rob Zombie's Halloween is a masterpiece. I don't care what anybody says. The only problem with it is that they sequeled it. There's a Halloween 2. Now, I understand that Rob Zombie decided to take on the mantle of Halloween 2 simply because he didn't want to let another writer or director come in and kill his vision. He thought, I'll kill it myself. And you know what? That's exactly what he did. Halloween 2 is a dumpster fire. I'm sorry, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is a dumpster fire of a movie. I feel like that entire narrative could have been given to any other random made up new horror villain that he wanted to create, and it would have been fine. I didn't need him to delve into that white horse nonsense. I didn't need his wife to come back and be a ghost tormenting Laurie/Angel. And by the way, that was probably the trashiest name you could have possibly picked for Laurie. Angel? Angel. Is she a stripper? Come on. Anyways, the only redeeming quality that Halloween 2 had it ended my way. I was watching the movie in the theater and I remember thinking, this has the potential to be the worst or best Halloween movie ever. Because Michael Myers died at the end of the first movie, and they should have kept that canon. I mean, she shot him point blank in the face. Did you notice that all of that part of the mask was blown off? You know what else should have been blown off with the mask? His face. But no, they let it go, and for some ungodly reason at the end of the movie, when Michael walked out of that little house and was gunned down, what he should have been revealed to have been his sister. Laurie should have walked out wearing the mask the entire time. It should have been her. He should have been alive in her head, prompting her to commit all of these murders in his name because she's crazy like he was crazy, because crazy is genetic. Just look at my mother. Anyways, so that's Halloween 2. I'm not a big fan of it. And now we go back to Halloween 2018, which once again is its own timeline. Oh my goodness, Halloween 2018 pretends that all of those movies don't exist except for the first one. None of the Laurie and Michael are brothers backstory, none of that nonsense made it. It is a direct sequel to Halloween, and it is called Halloween. How unimaginative could you possibly have been? Ooh, excuse me. And then the sequels are Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, which haven't come out yet because, you know, the Rona. Anyway, so I guess I should leave in a few honorable mentions. I wanted to bring up the Evil Dead franchise because Evil Dead's a little unique as far as multiverses go. There's The Evil Dead, and then there's Evil Dead 2, which is technically a soft reboot / sequel / remake of the original movie. Then there's Army of Darkness, which is once again a soft reboot / remake / sequel of the Evil Dead series, and then there's Ash versus the Evil Dead, which is actually a direct sequel to the Army of Darkness movie. So that movie does tend to have its own little multiverse, and recently the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has thrown itself into the ring for a second time with multiverses. If you're familiar with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, there's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1, 2, and 3. Then there's Leatherface, the prequel, and that's all considered prime timeline. Then there's the remake, and for some ungodly reason, a prequel to the remake, which we really didn't need, sorry, but Jessica Biel's remake was perfect. Then in 2013, they gave us Texas Chainsaw, which pretends that all the sequels and remakes didn't happen, and this is a direct sequel to the original movie, which was a very strong sequel, and I don't understand why it wasn't more popular. I enjoyed the whole aspect of it, but once again, Texas Chainsaw Massacre fans are rioting for another movie, and they're making another movie with a new timeline that once again will be sequeling just the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and ignoring all of the other ones that came out. So as far as the Halloween series goes, what do you guys think about Halloween 2018, and what are your thoughts on Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends coming up in the next couple of years? I'll leave a link, I'll just leave a card after the video y'all can click on. I did a video theorizing about how Halloween sequels tend to suck after they put out a really strong first movie, and that's way blah, blah, blah. Anyways, be excellent to each other and party on, dudes.